Hey, so this video is about integrity. So it's a word. But what does it mean? So I'm not going to look it up. I'll just use my own definition for it. So I would say that integrity has something to do with, say, taking everything into account. As an example, as an analogy for what it's worth, say a brick wall. It's not the bricks themselves, it is the structure. It is essentially the pattern that they're laid out in. It is the structure that holds them all together and gives them strength, right? You know how they say a chain is only as strong as its weakest link, right? And so integrity for myself, it means if you have a weak point in a structure, it can cause like a catastrophic failure, for what it's worth, in something that is where there is a lot of interconnectivity and essentially reliance on each other as something that is intimately intertwined, connected, woven together in a way which produces something that is a whole, right? And so this is the case in life. Just one example, I don't want to lose it, is like if you've ever seen a video or anything like that about how they killed all the wolf population in, say, I don't know if it was Yellowstone Park or something like that, and what happened as a result of that, by trying to by eliminating this natural predator, other species grew out of control because they didn't have anything that was feeding on them, and they ended up wrecking the land, which changed the face of the entire ecosystem in the area because of what happened, because these big animals, there was so many of them, and they were eating all the plants, so the plants are suffering, and then the damage that they were doing to the ground, and it changed, it made mud instead of grass, and then because then there's not the plants that are drinking up the water, then you have too much water, and then you have flooding and all this kind of stuff, right? I don't know all the details, but for what it's worth, it's very Googleable. And that was a thing. You cannot just, so the point is that like every piece of a puzzle is integral. No matter how small you think that thing might be. One of the ones, what's going on here? Was bees, is this big thing where I guess, because of a lot of commercial farming and stuff like that, with pesticides and herbicides and fungicides, all the poisons that they spray all over these crops, and genetically modified crops as well. And then it was having a negative impact on the honey bee population, which is pretty important because they pollinate the plants and whatnot that we need to keep living and to eat, and that are a part of the ecosystem of nature and whatnot. So some other things too that come to mind. There's certainly when they brought the boll weevil, there's an insect that got brought over here to deal with some other thing, and then it ended up eating all the pine trees in, not all of them, but like a huge portion of the pine trees and stuff like that in Canada, I don't know, North America, but big problem, so it's just it's the thing is that everything is important, no matter how small you might think it be, no matter how insignificant, it might not matter to you specifically in ways that you're like immediately aware of, but at the end of the day, there's a lot more going on than most people are aware of. And so, yeah, integrity is a thing. And so, like, on a personal level, for myself, I don't know why I feel so strongly about this, but it's just part of how I'm hardwired. I'm not saying that I'm, better than anyone else or perfect or holier than thou or anything like that, right? I still have my own issues that I'm working through and stuff like that. And I don't always have 100% integrity, right? But I am aware of it and I take it seriously. It's not, it's something that is very close to my heart. And so, the way that this has, because it's like, it's a funny thing what integrity is. I mean, because it is one of these things which, so I've been speaking about this a little bit, just about how I'm going to make a video that I'm going to remake some videos about masculine energy. And so I would say that this very much falls in the realm of that. And so, because masculine energy, feminine energy is about the individual, about the self. It's an important thing. But so is masculine. That's why, which is about others. It's about the community. It's not just, you're thinking beyond what your own personal needs are and how you're going to acquire whatever it is that you think that you need to get. And you really take into account, what it's going to take for you to get that, whether you really need it. I mean, if it's important, the impact that it has, say, to do certain things or have certain things. And at the end of the day, you have to kind of decide whether or not it's really worth it. So, you're really thinking in a much bigger scope about whether or not certain things are worth the cost, and if they're worth pursuing or getting involved in and things like that. It's about having integrity, right? I mean, and it's right up there with this word discipline, and other ones, because you're discipline, you're really thinking about, you're like, well, you're in the supermarket, you're like, oh, I could get some chips. Of course you can. You work for money and you can afford them. And it's like, but discipline and integrity is saying, well, yeah, I can, but I mean, once in a while maybe, but like, they're not good for you. Like, there's nothing that is healthy about those things to put them in your body. It dries you out. It's not, and certainly if they're not non-GMO, they probably are GMO. I mean, and like on and on and on. So it's like, having that sort of discipline and integrity, in certain situations is important. I mean, because you can end up saving yourself hardship down the road. Like, say, another one too is like pornography. Some people, say, like, guys, I don't know about girls, but a lot of guys, when they're alone, when they have time to themselves and they feel like having an experience where they, have this, there's this orgasm and stuff like that, and whatnot. And it's like, so then you can turn on your phone or your computer or whatever you have available to you, or whatever, and you can do that. But I mean, for myself, like, gawking after women, looking at women as objects, and like, if you go to those sites and stuff like that, that's how, because they get paid for that, for views, just like YouTube. It's essentially a very similar sort of thing. So it's like, you got to think to yourself, it's like, do I really want to support that? Do I want to be involved in that? Because by participating in that, by going through those actions of watching porn and doing whatever you do to that, you are a part of that and you are supporting it, essentially. So once again, discipline and integrity. Another one too is this, like, doing drugs and stuff like that. Like, it's not that it's not like anything's bad, right? But it's like, you have to, like, I guess, think about it in your life if it makes sense. Like if you have certain things that are important for you to do, like, you know, if you're going to school or something, you need to focus, you need to concentrate, you need to pay attention to something. It might not be the best idea to get drunk one night or to get stoned or whatever it is that, you know, that you enjoy partaking in or doing, right? Because at the end of the day, it is going to affect your performance the next day. You're going to get up, you're not going to sleep as well, and you're also going to feel tired in the morning, and it takes more time to essentially fully wake up and embrace the day and stuff like that. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, it's easy to, another thing too is like, you know, with all the forms of entertainment out there with social media and with Netflix and all the other names of things, channels and TV and stuff like that and movies, it's so easy to distract yourself and to, you know, it's like it is entertainment, but it's also escapism. You know, you can sort of like get, you go on a journey when you start watching TVs or watching movies. You know, you have highs and lows, and there's cringe and there's like things that laugh, you know, and it's something that can be quite addictive, especially if in your life you don't really have that. So yeah, it's you know, people binge watch shows. I mean, it's just like that word binge, it's a funny one, right? I mean, because at the end of the day, I mean, we're all, I mean, each to their own, right? We're all at different places in our lives, right? But a lot of us have certain responsibilities and things like that, you know, it's arguably would be more responsible or mature to give the most important things in our lives the attention that they need, things that we've been sleeping on or putting off or procrastinating or just like yeah, things that we need to do, that we know that we need to do. Yeah, and so it's good to not get too caught up. It's good to not get distracted, right? And to avoid doing the things that we need to do. So once again, having integrity, because you're taking into account all of these things that are actually important. And then, you know, I think once you've actually done everything that is important, as long as you're on top of your stuff, you know, then it's, of course, it's fine to enjoy life, to relax a bit, to take time to smell the roses. Absolutely, right? But I mean, you got to kind of put in the work first, and you got to think beyond the moment and just what is going to serve you, yeah, in that moment or whatever. You know, like another one that's tough for me is to do with work. Like I've never, just because of the way that I'm wired, I've never been able to chase money or do anything that I had a kombucha business, but at the end of the day, I was like, this isn't what I'm here to do. I don't care how much money I could make. It was before kombucha got big. And I was like, no, I mean, I have to pursue what really, you know, touches that is an expression of my soul, you know, something that is really, this is my essence. This is why I'm here. Because if I didn't, it would just eat me alive and it would be a dead end road. So I've traveled a very short way up so many different roads, but I've always stayed true to what I knew was correct. And, you know, there have been times when it has just like, oh my God, what am I doing? You know, like with all this yoga stuff, it's like, how is this ever going to come full circle? There's been all these complications and things that have come up, but you know, I stuck with it because I knew that there was something about it and it was important, and that it's not just about me also, right? It is also what I'm contributing to society. It's the role that I play. It's what I can bring forward. So it's like, yeah, you know, I could have gotten caught up in being a DJ. I could have gotten caught up in owning different businesses, and I did have different businesses, but none of them worked out, you know? And so it was really, you know, it's been a long road, but I have maintained the integrity just to myself through it. And it is now looking like it's going to pan out. I can actually see how being so steadfast, being like, no, whatever I do has to have ultimate integrity or else it will eat me alive. And it's worked out, right? So those are some things. There are some other examples that I have so the thing is, with integrity, not everybody has it, right? And so this word, it can be quite triggering to some people, especially, I think, because we all kind of know sort of deep down that we're supposed to have integrity, but if you don't even know the meaning of the word, how could you even begin to embrace it? If you can't describe it, if you can't put it into words, if you can't, like Einstein said, if you can't explain it to a 6-year-old, then you probably don't understand it yourself. And good luck actually being an example of it and walking that path and whatnot. So I have been in a number of situations with people where I have had to, meaning I choose to have integrity, and it means usually speaking up. A lot of the times it means holding a position that is unpopular, because when you don't have integrity, you can basically just do whatever you want. You don't really have to take anybody else into account. You just kind of get to operate in a way, and a lot of the time it's what a lot of other people are doing. So you fit in by not having integrity. But when you have integrity, you take a stance and you say, yeah, no, actually, no, absolutely not, right? Because you have this structure, you have this discipline, you have these principles that you believe in. You have a value system, you have morals, you adhere to ethical principles as well. So it's like you are, you're operating on a level that isn't super popular amongst people who like to just do whatever and not really think about the consequences of their actions and how what they're doing is affecting other people, right? And so a few examples. So one of them was with somebody who is very close to me, and this person, like, I have been a vegan for 10 years, and this person just like consistently asks me, oh, hey, would you like some chicken, for dinner, or would you like a steak? And it's just like, I put up with it for a period of time because I care about this person. They mean a lot to me. But it got to the point this year where I said, listen, like, for the last time, I have been vegan for 10 years. Like, and the person said, well, I don't know what that means. I said, Google it, look it up, like, stop this nonsense. It's like if I was gay or something like that, and I let it be known. I came out of the closet, and then people still being like, oh, so have you met a nice young lady yet? Are you going to have some kids? It's like, no, because you register what a person says to you, right? It's something you pay attention, you acknowledge what somebody is about when they explain it to you. This person said, oh, I can't look it up. And it's like, because he doesn't want to look it up. He doesn't want to understand any of the philosophy, because, if there was anything true to it, then he might feel bad and not be able to just continue behaving the way that he does and doing what he does, right? So, like, I had to hand it to this person, and it was rough because I don't like having to speak that way to another human being. But when somebody is just so inconsiderate, when they just absolutely refuse to acknowledge who you are and what you're about, that you've been, and it's not like it's something new, like this is something that has been going on for a significant period of time. It's just like, sometimes you have to take a stance and say something, because what you allow to continue will. And so you have to choose. It's like, well, do I really want to keep hearing this? Am I gonna, it's this thing, boundaries. Healthy boundaries are the key to self-love. You cannot say that you love yourself if you allow other people to walk all over you, to just constantly, not be able to grasp what you're about. If you just take abuse, you are essentially enabling them. So this is like a new understanding that I'm working with now, is just to do with, when you're too nice to somebody, you are essentially enabling them. And this is a bad example of like just being a person, right? To be enabling somebody to not have boundaries, and by letting somebody take advantage of you in any way, you are not doing them any favors. Because a lot of the time I feel like most people don't mean to push boundaries so much. They don't mean to step on other people's feet, or do things that are, for what it's worth, offensive or just inconsiderate towards other people. But it happens, and so you have to let them know. Like, what is a friend if not somebody who points out the other person's blind spots, so that they can at least have the opportunity to reflect on the impact that their actions are having on other people. And then if they're ready to make some kind of a correction, if not even more, like, make peace with the other person, say, hey, I'm sorry, I didn't realize, and it's challenging, this vegan one, right? Because this person, I know a few people like this, that it's just like they can't get it. You can't get it, because if you did get it, you'd be vegan. So you have to not get it. You have to just be perpetually not getting it, and definitely not looking into it or researching it, right? It can't be that. But this person, I know one of them is like an engineer. So it's like, so you can like build stuff, like create machines from scratch. One of them is another person that's a mechanic. And it's just like, so you can tear that engine apart, right down to the very heart core, and then put it back together. But you can't wrap your mind around this simple concept about where I'm at, and what I stand for, what I believe in, and what I'm, So it's a tricky one, right? But in speaking up about it, and not getting mad, right? But getting, voicing what I had to say, and then it stopped. It finally stopped, right? So it's like, it's hugely important, if you want to avoid a repetition of something that you don't enjoy to do with a person that you are involved with. And the thing is, like, when it comes to family, you are kind of stuck with those people. So you have to learn how to speak up. You have to learn how to use your voice and to communicate effectively and politely and respectably. So that's a huge thing. I've had, so moving on to another example, I've had friends who, I got a friend that, we're friends at multiple times. We worked together, but then he was supposed to be there for me this one time, and then he wasn't. And I just didn't believe him when he was saying that that something happened. I was just like, man, I was counting on you so much, and you totally sold me out. And then you made excuses, and then like on and on and on. It's just like, I just don't have time for that. I got enough going on. Like, man, just a real friend, please. And then I didn't talk to him for a while. Then all of a sudden we were friends again. because I was like, man, I gotta give this person a second chance. I don't know for a fact that he was scumbagged me, right? I mean, maybe he was telling the truth and I just, it didn't. And so I gave him another chance, right? But then we're hanging out and I caught him lying to me, bold-faced lying. Like, I'm not gonna give the example because it's not appropriate, but it's along the lines of, if you've ever seen that Dave Chappelle where it's got Charlie Murphy and they go to Prince's house and he's just like, and he's, oh no, who it is? It's Rick James, right? And so Rick James is like, it's like, come on now, I got enough sense. You think I just ground my feet into Eddie Murphy's couch? I got enough sense than to, I got more sense than to do something like that. And then 2 seconds later, he's like, yeah, ground my feet into Eddie Murphy's couch, right? And so this was my experience with this guy about something that is just, I can't say, right? And I was like, wow, you just lied through your teeth to my face. And it's like, you can't even like recognize that you are like a terrible friend, And I told him at that moment, I was like, get out of my house. And it broke my heart because I liked this person. We were friends, but it's like, how can you be friends with somebody when you've caught them lying to your face? And so it sucks, right, to have integrity. I wish I could, there's a part of me that wishes I could just not have integrity, right? And just be like, whatever, just brush it off like it ain't no thing. But it's just not the case. And so I've had to say goodbye to this person who meant a lot to me, right? But there was just, I don't know, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Fool me 3 times, man, I'm just asking for it. So, yeah, really sad. But I live with that. I just have to live with the sadness of not being able to be friends with this person anymore. So another one too, moving on, is so I gotta candy coat some of this stuff, right? Because it's like, you gotta change the names and places not to incriminate people, right? But so there is this, say, organization that I am involved with, right? And so as a result of my dealings with these, with this organization, there is they do this thing where they offer you a gift for what it's worth, right? And so then you get to choose from this thing, right? And it's like, okay, you get to choose a thing, but the thing is, as soon as you start clicking on stuff, it like starts directing you. It starts controlling your ability to choose, and then it lands you on something, and all of a sudden you're stuck with a couple of choices which you don't really prefer, that don't really, it's just that based on the options that I was given, this is the only, and then this is what you have, and you can't go back. So it's just like there's a thing, it's like, so to do with gifts, like a gift is something that is given freely. As soon as you start placing limitations or like trying to control, it becomes a burden. It's like if you're going to give somebody some money and be like, okay, here's $10, but you can't do this with it, you can't do that with it. All of a sudden you're controlling a person. You're using a gift as a it is a gift, but it's like when you're controlling it, when you make it about yourself, it's like the gift is not, it's not the same anymore, right? Because you're controlling anyways. And so I really didn't appreciate that, and so I had to reach out to this organization. I was like, I don't understand why you're involved with this company that provides this service that really is coercing people into doing certain things and to getting this and that. And then it's like, okay, so here's your gift. You know, a gift, it's like if I give you a gift, literally I take this pen and I give it to you, right? I don't be like, okay, well, here's a pen, but if you want this pen, it's like $20. I'll give you half the pen, so you just got to pay the other 10, and then you got to pay shipping and handling, so that's like another 10. So like, but for $20, you know, and it's like all of a sudden it's not a gift anymore. It's just like this thing where you're being like corralled into like buying something, into purchasing something, into ending up with something that you didn't even really want in the first place, that you don't really need, but it's just like, it's not a gift anymore. And you know, it's tough. I hate to be the person who has to pipe up and say, you know what, this is ridiculous. It doesn't make sense for a variety of reasons. Like I don't understand why you associate yourself with such a service. I mean, it's yeah. And that was having integrity in that moment, right? And it was, but, and I honestly, there's a part of me that feels bad. I don't like telling people off. I do not like confrontation. I don't like, you know, spelling things out to people like that and be like, hey, you know, what you're doing it certainly isn't working for me, and I don't appreciate it. You know, put it like that, you know, to give that kind of negative feedback, right? But I mean, sometimes it is necessary, right? And that's sort of what this video is about. So moving on, there was another instance when I was down in La Paz in the Baja of California in Mexico, and I was staying at a place. I stayed in a house for 3 months, and then I moved out, and then my friend from Colombia, she came by and we rented the place, but not through Airbnb. And we stayed there, and there was a bottle of tequila there, and it was just like, oh hey, she's like there's a bottle of tequila here. I was like, yeah, no, I mean, everything in this house is for whoever is renting the house. I've lived here for 3 months. You know, if it's there, I guess somebody just left it there, and it's like you can drink it or whatever. So we had a sip of it, and that was it, right? I mean, didn't drink the whole bottle, didn't drink even like a tenth of it, right? Just had a sip. Anyways, so then we leave, and then we get this what do you call it, email saying that, oh, a bunch of money for some bottle of tequila. And I was like, what do you mean? You know, and it was just annoying that these people, like, it's like, you know, if you want to sell something, say something, you know, be upfront about it, you know, make it known, make it very obvious so that a person doesn't have to guess, you know, to figure it out, what is going on. And then the hosts tried to go through Airbnb, even though this time renting had nothing to do with Airbnb, to try to get the money. And it's like, you know, the thing is that the money isn't the issue. You know, it is a very insignificant portion of money, right? But it's the principle. It's like if you let people take advantage of you, if you let people trick you, you know, like we felt tricked. It's just like, this doesn't feel right. This feels icky. It's just like, you know, you change the rules, all of a sudden you didn't say anything, and then, you know, so if you then just say, oh, whatever, who cares, it's $20, or, you know, whatever the cost was, and just give it to them, then you're essentially supporting that kind of a behavior, you know. And it sucks, because it's just like, I don't want to be that person it's not about being stingy, right? It's not about the money. It's about the principle. It's like, how dare you like try to pull a fast one like that, you know? Like I thought that we were friends. You know, when I left this place, I actually gave them a bunch of stuff. Like I had bought a food processor that I was leaving Mexico, and I was like, here, you know, have all this stuff in it. And then they like turned around and tried to pull this fast one. Just really didn't appreciate it. And it was something that I've sat with many times and thought, it's like, you know, did I do the right thing? You know, but we talked about it, we thought about it, we felt into it, and at the end of the day, it was just like, you know, this isn't right. So yeah, we took this unpopular stance that, you know, not everybody might agree with, but I mean, you know, you got to do what seems right to you, you know, and whatnot. So yeah, it was a tough one. You know, all these ones are tough. I mean, there was a time, so on the same trip before I went to Mexico, I was down in Oceanside in Southern California, just outside of, like, between San Diego and Los Angeles. And there were these people that I got to know at the farmer's market. I was hanging out there for a little bit, and they, you know, we were very loosely friends, right? But they were selling some kind of like a health food product. It was like some kind of sprouted black rice or something, supposed to have all these nutrients and whatnot in it. And anyways, so they, you know, we're standing there one day, and this person, there was somebody like across the way, and they were selling puppies, right? And so you can only imagine where this is going to go with me, right? And then this person says, like, oh, I would love a puppy. I think I might get a puppy. And I was just, you know, at that moment, you know, I have a choice. I can walk away. I could ignore it. I can pretend I didn't hear anything. You know, I can not share my opinion. I can not say anything. I can just, you know, let it go. Of course, that is a choice, right? But sometimes there's something in me that wells up. And at that time it said, you know where a puppy belongs? You know, and the answer is with its mother. You know, where does every child belong? With its own mother, with its parents. That is where children belong. You don't sell them. You know, this isn't, you know, and when I said this, I felt like I put my foot in my mouth. It's just like, there's a part of me that wishes that I didn't say it. There's a part of me that's glad that I did say it because it's important to me. But I felt bad, you know, and I can't say that I feel bad to this day. I can't say that I regret it, but I do somewhat, right? Because I don't like to bring heaviness to put on people's plates. I don't like to be negative. I'm not trying to put somebody down or throw something in their face or, you know, like make them feel bad about who they are or what they choose to do or what they are involved in, right? I mean, that, so it's very challenging, right? And so it's another one of these things of just having, it's like integrity, you know, because it's very common of people having, you know, I see these people who have, sometimes outside of, there's like a supermarket here and there and be like, oh, money for, what do you call it? Vets, animals for war vets. And it's like, well, they ask for money and I say, well, honestly, I don't agree with what you're doing. And they say, why? I mean, it helps. I was like, no, because, you know, I agree that war vets need help, right? But that's a human problem. It's not an animal problem. I mean, you can't take a sovereign being and put your problems on it. You know, like they take those animals from a very early age and they train them, like break them like they do with horses and stuff like that. The ones that are too independent, then they find other homes, but the ones that are docile and controllable, they train them so that they lose all their sense of like being a dog and running around sniffing butts and whatever it is that dogs do, which is absolutely none of anybody's business. They should be hanging out with other dogs, you know, like, yeah, sniffing butts, right? And so, yeah, I mean, it's tough because everybody's got their like agenda, right? Their, I don't know if vendetta is the word, right? I am personally a person who I have a love for animals, and that's why this whole vegan thing, you know, it's a bit of a cause that I find myself involved in, right? And so yeah, there's that. I mean, so there was another one. It was like when I was working at this place, it was a fishing lodge, and very strange place for a vegan person to work, because they had a couple of donkeys that were in a pen. You know, like those animals are known for walking over mountain ranges, right? So that's just like, oh, this is horrible. And they had bison as well. Have you ever seen like some documentary about bison wandering the plains, you know, like, and they're in a pen, right? I mean, this is just like maddening. Same thing, chickens in a pen. They had yeah, anyways, those animals. And so this was tough for me, for my vegan heart, right? Because I am a champion of animal rights. And yeah, I think that animals should be able to raise their families free from oppression or being controlled in any way. Just like humans, I mean, animal rights. And so I worked there and I saw myself, it's like, okay, well, you know, this is sad, it breaks my heart, but I can give these animals quality of life. And so I brought them food all the time, blueberries that I would pick, and bananas for the donkeys, and things for the bison and stuff like that, apples and pears, things that I would get from my friends' trees. And it was like, okay. And then they totally recognized when somebody was showing them love and honoring them as creatures who essentially deserve more but are stuck in this situation, and somebody actually cares and recognizes their worth, right? And goes out of their way to try to be of service to them. And so then I went to this festival that I always go to in Liven, and I came back heart open and stuff like that. And the first day I got back, my boss said to me, oh, hey, you know, they built a pig pit for roasting pigs. And I was like, hey, you must be upset that you missed the big pig roast. You know, I took one sigh and I said, like, have you not paid any attention to what I'm about? Like, has it just completely gone over your head, everything about who I am and what I stand for? I mean, you know that I'm vegan, and it's just like, you know, people make these inappropriate jokes and they think that they're funny or whatever, right? But I just like, I was in a place where, you know, and that cost me my job. I was fired the next day. It might have even been that day. Like, by the end of the day, I was jobless, right? And that is the price of having integrity, of saying, you know what, like, I don't know what, you know, like confronting somebody, be like, I don't know what doesn't register for you, how this is so over your head that you can't like just show a little bit of consideration, that you can't just acknowledge, you can't, you know, yeah. So anyways, yeah, get fired over stuff like that. I've been fired from jobs for practicing yoga. On my lunch break, I would just be sitting there and I would do a couple of yoga stretches, and they'd be like, what are you doing? I'd be like, I just stretching my back. They're like, no, you can't do that here, it looks weird. I was like, but you're sitting there smoking. It's like, you can sit there and slowly kill yourself, and that food you're eating is absolute garbage. You can sit here and poison yourself and kill yourself, but I can't sit here and stretch. And of course that conversation didn't go well with my boss, and I found myself fired that day again, right? And yeah, I mean, my big mouth, you know, I don't know if that's to do with integrity, right? But it's just another funny example. You know, I know that my say like a woman that I was involved with in recenter times, right? There was a time when I recognized we'd been together, and it was like, hey, you know, I don't feel like you're doing a whole lot to help out around here. You know, I can't remember ever seeing you touch the vacuum or, you know, do this or that. She's like, oh yeah, I do this stuff. I was like, let's just keep track, right? Like, let's just put a thing on the fridge, get some little gold stars. It'll be funny, you know, just to make sure that everybody's doing their part around here. And she lost it on me. She's like, how dare you question me? And I was just like, screw you. It's just like, screw you, you know, like, what do you mean you don't want to make sure that we're both putting in efforts around here, that we're both pulling our weight? I mean, what do you think is going on here? You know, do you think that your beauty or your whatever it is that you have to offer in some way like eliminates your requirement of having to do your part? Because I'm telling you that it does not, right? And then it was a wake-up call for me, because it was just like, oh, so it's not supposed to be fair. And this is when I started waking up to a bigger reality that this was all a part of. But just, you know, and it's tough because, like, I know a lot of men are subservient to the women that they're involved with. They will allow themselves to be abused, to be treated as lesser, to be undermined, to be talked down to, like in a condescending manner, to be just to be abused in general, because I don't know, maybe they think they can't do any better, or what they have, they don't want to upset things, or everybody has their reasons for why they might put up with an abusive relationship, a toxic relationship, but not this one. And that's why I'm single, because I will not in any way put up with somebody who doesn't truly appreciate me by reciprocating, you know, in every way, because that's just ridiculous. I mean, yeah. You know, another one too, this is the last one, is just to do with, like, I was friends with this with a group of people, and it didn't work out, we'll put it like that. And the people that I needed to be there for me, to you know, what is a friend? It will defend you in your time of need. You know, like if something is going on, somebody starts talking crap on you, they'll be like, hey, no, we know this person. The person ain't about that. You know damn well what you're saying isn't true, right? You stand up for each other. You know, and all this kind of stuff. And like, these people weren't there for me. You know, they turned on me. You know, I've been turned on so many times in my life, and I just, you know, I had to say to myself, you know what? I wanted nothing more than to fit in, than to be a part of something, to belong. You know, I think a lot of us have this sense that we want to belong, for what it's worth. We want to feel like, yeah, we're a part of something. And for, you know, it's nice when people, hey, what are you doing? They genuinely care about you and what you're up to and what you're about, and they take interest in whatnot, right? But you know, at the end of the day, it was just like, I can't be involved with people who don't display the qualities that I understand a friendship to have, you know, like, which is like, for myself, there has to be trust. It's like, well, I stopped trusting them when they don't trust me. I mean, so like trust, respect, support, a mutual appreciation for what the other person has to share, love, you know. So just really, it was really sad that I had to walk away from certain friendships with people because I felt like I was being treated poorly. You know, that's just, and I mean, it's heartbreaking, right? It's like, why can't people just be, you know, open, honest, upfront, straightforward, genuine, sincere, you know, always, you know, honesty, integrity, gratitude, humility, strength, courage, discipline, compassion, acceptance, forgiveness, kindness, and maturity. Those are the kind of words that I like, you know, that mean that's where I like to be. But yeah, anyways, that's it. I mean, that is my video about integrity. Yeah, it's about the structure that holds it all together and taking everything into account simultaneously. There is no one detail that supersedes another. They're all important, and there is a way for them to all peacefully coexist, I'm sure. Like, just look at nature itself. You know, that is our prime example of how everything is able to coexist and to exist in like a synergy, like a symbiotic kind of relationship where everything, you know, gets what it needs, but also respects every other element and what it needs to. Because, you know, like this old Marshall Rosenberg thing, it's never that our needs are in conflict. It's how we go about trying to appease the needs that we think that we have. So.